Welcome to Manifest IAS, and you are watching Current Jokes. These are the crispest current affairs that you can get. As part of this program, we have covered other subjects and we have entered the series of environment now. In the previous videos of environment current affairs, you have seen some of the reports, conferences, and some of the schemes and programs too. So in this video, we will be covering again few of the schemes and programs to show you as the topics. We will be covering Green Business Scheme, Gigafactories, FAME, Electric Charging Infrastructure. These three, Gigafactories, FAME, Electric Charging Infrastructure, it is with respect to electrical vehicles and the necessary devices. Then we will be dealing with Smart Meter National Program, then Star Lighting Program. This is with respect to energy efficiency. Then we will be going ahead with the India's Cooling Action Plan. This is for mitigation of the climate change. And finally, we will be looking into one special group, that is Climate Action Network. As part of this initiative, we have many features. In those features, we have timestamp. You can go to the comment section and you can see the timestamp, and you can click on particular topic to revise them properly. Then we'll be giving you the slides of these videos to prepare better and also for the revision. At the end, we'll be giving two questions after each video, and we'll be taking those questions in bulk and we'll be solving them. So make use of them. So as part of today's video, we'll go to the first scheme, that is Green Business Scheme. Green
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Business Scheme, you can understand this is for the development of businesses, but those businesses in which there'll be the usage of green technology, or there'll be kind of energy efficiency. So when it comes to the debate of environment and development, in the previous videos also we have seen, we have to take these environment and the developmental issues hand in hand, and we cannot ignore one for the sake of the other. So in the similar manner, this Green Business Scheme has come, and this is targeting a particular group. That group is nothing but the scheduled caste, and the people belonging to the scheduled caste can take up the benefit of this Green Business Scheme. Why we have involved them? Because one way they are the part of the development, and there have to be the upliftment or the mainstreaming of the people belonging to the scheduled caste. Meanwhile, we provide them the employment opportunities, that too those employment opportunities in which the green technology is used or the energy efficiency is enhanced. So that is what is targeted in this scheme. So this is to provide the financial assistance to tackle the climate change. Though we are doing the businesses, though we are using many technologies, but they are in pursuit of curbing the climate change. And also this will help for the income generation for a particular community. And the eligibility criteria for this is the persons belonging to the scheduled caste will come under this scheme, and the annual income, that is annual family income of them, should be below 3 lakhs to avail the benefit of this scheme. Then the indicative schemes that we have for this is especially the purchasing of the e-rickshaw or battery electric vehicle. Already some of the states have given subsidies or the benefits as far as the e-rickshaws is concerned, but this particular scheme is nationwide, and we are targeting the people belonging to the scheduled castes. Then part of these schemes will be compressed air vehicle. Compressed air vehicle, it doesn't use the fuels, but it uses the mechanism of compression. Initially the air will be compressed in the engine, and the expansion of the air will help the pistons to move. So that pistons movement, the linear movement of the piston, will convert into the circular motion of the wheels. So basically those vehicles are like completely green, like they don't use any kind of fuel, but the mechanism is air compression, and there will be a limited usage in terms of the mileage or in terms of the distance that they cover after each compression. So that will be again the care has to be given. The next is the solar energy gadgets. Right now we have many solar equipments, maybe depending upon the photovoltaic cells that converts the light energy into the thermal energy, or that will convert it to the electrical energy. That is what we use in solar energy gadgets. So even the production of the solar energy gadgets will get the benefit out of this scheme. Even the polyhouses, one has to understand, this is not exactly as the greenhouses. Yes, it is similar to greenhouses, but it is not exactly the greenhouse. These polyhouses can be used for many purposes, especially in the field of horticulture and agriculture, to develop the nurseries, or even for other purposes of agriculture processes. We use the polyhouses. Even the building of these polyhouses by these particular community will get the benefit out of this scheme. And the financial assistance will be up to 30 lakhs of rupees for a case to case basis. So the maximum limit that the government can allot is 30 lakh rupees per person. Then the implementing agency is National Scheduled Caste Financial and Development Corporation, which provides up to 90% of the loan. If you take the cost of particular unit as let's say 1 lakh rupees, then the scheme will allot around 90%, that is around 90,000 rupees for that particular project. So this is up to 30 lakhs, and help is up to 90%. So this is what we have to know about this scheme. The next scheme, if you can take as a project or a particular concept, so that is gigafactories. Gigafactories, it is not the Indian concept. This is the concept that has been borrowed by one private agency, that is Tesla. Tesla is building the gigafactories around the world, especially with respect to Europe and USA. They have few gigafactories. So what is the concept of these gigafactories? First, we need to understand what is this giga. This giga, it is nothing but 10 to the power of 9. So the power generation will be to that tune. So in the electrical appliances or the electrical consumption of a house, we talk in terms of kilowatt hour. That is the power utilized for 1 hour by that particular appliance or by the houses. That is the unit. But here we are trying to generate the energy to the tunes of gigawatt hours, that is GWH. And the factories, these are the factories which are producing the equipments which can produce and store the energy to the tunes of gigawatt hours. This is what we are dealing, and this concept we are trying to adopt in India's energy efficiency or the India's electro vehicles also. Here, Niti Aayog has sought the approval of the cabinet for going ahead with the 10 gigafactories. 10 gigafactories, and each gigafactory will be having the capacity of energy production up to 5 gigawatt hours. So totally we are targeting around 50 gigawatt hours. And what are the devices that we are developing here? So that is the lithium ion batteries. Lithium ion batteries and the science behind it has won the Nobel Prize in 2019. So lithium ion is the new thing, or it is the ultimate thing what we have right now for the energy conservation or for the energy efficiency. So basically we will be producing the lithium ion batteries in these gigafactories, and we are trying 10 gigafactories, and the total generation what we are trying to achieve is 50 gigawatt hours. That means 10 large factories into 5 gigawatt hour per factory. Then it is to use the lithium ion batteries in the electric vehicles. So far electric vehicles, we use the normal acid batteries. So we are replacing those acid batteries, that is lead acid batteries, with the lithium ion batteries. Even they will be very handy to handle, they will be less in weight, and they will be more efficient in terms of the energy conservation and energy utilization. And the production is scheduled to start in the year 2022. So before that, the Niti Aayog is seeking the cabinet approval. And by 2025, we are going to scale up. Initially, we are going to have 10 gigafactories of 5 gigawatt hour capacity each. And in the year 2025 and henceforth, we'll be scaling up maybe in terms of the factories we have or in terms of the capacity what those factories have. We are trying to scale up from 2025. For the general understanding or in the comparison, what we can imagine is 1 gigawatt hour of power energy can power 30,000 electric cars. So this is what has been the calculation so far. So if you consider like this, nearly 50 gigawatt hour production, so that will lead to the revolution of electrical cars in India. So that is what is the target. Finally, we need to do away with the petrol and the diesel vehicles because they have multiple effects. Maybe with respect to pollution, maybe with respect to the fossil fuels. So we are going ahead with the electrical cars in the future. So that is the ambition. Then these gigafactories will be eligible for subsidy also from the government, and 60% indigenization is what is targeted by 2025. So right now we are borrowing this concept from Tesla, because Tesla already has been successful in establishing these gigafactories. Then we are building 10 gigafactories, 5 gigawatt hour capacity per gigafactory. Then we are starting by 22 and we are scaling up by 25. And the comparison is given. Even the subsidy can be given for the establishment of these gigafactories. And this concept, it is very useful to understand the next topic, that is the FAME. This is the faster adoption and manufacturing of the hybrid and electrical vehicles. So here we need to understand one type of electric vehicles come that is purely run on the electricity. So we need to have a battery for the energy conservation, and we run solely on the electricity. Some of the automobile industries are coming up with the hybrid vehicles since many years. We have to understand. So in these hybrid vehicles, there can be a shift between the power generated by the diesel or the petrol or with the battery. So basically there can be a shift. There will be a switch over to the diesel or the petrol vehicle towards the electric vehicle. So it can be operated on both, that is on the fossil fuel or even on the battery. So some of the hybrid vehicles will be having plug-in facility. Some of them are very stronger. So that is the ratio that has been provided for the usage of the batteries and the usage of the fossil fuels. Then it is part of a bigger mission, that is NEMM, that is the National Electric Mobility Mission. And in this, we are promoting the electric, that is the pure electrical vehicle and the hybrid vehicles in the country. Even there is some kind of benefits with respect to the tax saving or with respect to the cost of these vehicles. The government is helping the people to buy the electric or the hybrid vehicles. Then it gives subsidy to the manufacturers also for the production of electric vehicles and also the electric transportation infrastructure. In this infrastructure, there will be the coverage of even the charging stations too. In the next slide, we'll be talking about those charging stations. It is not just about the vehicles. If we have the vehicles, even the charging stations and the infrastructure that is needed for the running of the electrical vehicles, that has to be set in place before we run the electric vehicles in India. Then the phase 1 was from 2015 to 2019. That was the 4 years period that we had in the phase 1. That is the FAME 1, what we call FAME 1. Then we are into FAME 2 right now, that is running from 2019 to 2022. That is for 3 years. Under this, it will cover the buses using EV technology. So far, we are running the electric vehicles as far as the two-wheeler, three-wheeler and the four-wheeler is concerned. That is the small capacity. Now we are going ahead for the buses too. The next one is about the electric plug-in hybrid and the strong hybrid four-wheelers. So, as I had explained, there are two types of hybrid vehicles: plug-in, that is mainly depending upon the electric part, and the strong hybrid. So that is having the proportion or the ratio between the fossil fuel that we use and the battery operation that we do. The next thing that we are covering is the three-wheelers, including the e-rickshaws which are there in the place right now, and also the electric two-wheelers. This sector, the electric two-wheeler, this has to be pushed because India is one of the India is the country which is having one of the highest two-wheeler numbers. So we have to push the electric two-wheelers on the road. So that is what is the target in the FAME 2. Next one is, as I told in the previous slide, that it is very important to have the electric charging infrastructure. As we have the electric motors, similarly, we have to have the charging infrastructure also. It is as comparable to the vehicles and the petrol bunks what we have. So we have to allocate certain place, we have to go ahead with certain tax stops, we have to go ahead with the promotion of these charging infrastructures. Then only people will be encouraged to buy the electric vehicles. So under this electric charging infrastructure, the scheme proposes for establishing these charging stations, and there are 2,700 charging stations which are proposed and which will be established in the cities, especially the metros, the million plus cities. These are the census cities what we have. Then smart cities which are there in the smart city mission. Then the cities of hilly states. So here we are trying to build 2,700 charging stations right now. Then when it comes to the area coverage, at least one charging station has to be there in the area covering the square of 3 kilometer into 3 kilometer. That is around 9 square kilometer. One charging station will be there. So this is what is the target. Then if you come to the major highways, because as we have seen, the electrical vehicles, they have the range of 80 to 100 kilometers, or it can stretch up to 150 to 200 kilometers depending upon the battery capacity. So similarly, we have to have the charging infrastructure or the charging stations somewhere on the highways also, because the highways run for the hundreds of kilometers, and the person who is going from one place to another place which is 500 to 600 kilometers far away, we have to have a charging stations there, and that too the fast charging stations. Then only the people will be encouraged to use these vehicles. So on the major highways, the target is to have the charging stations at the gap of 25 kilometers. So every 25 kilometer, one will find the charging station, and these will be present on both sides of the highway. So this is what is the target under the electric charging infrastructure, and rupees 1,000 crore has been allocated for setting up these charging stations in India. So this has been the major development as far as the electric charging infrastructure. We need to concentrate on the cities plus, that is the cities of million plus population, then metros, then smart cities, and also the hilly states. Then the square area that we are targeting is 3 kilometer by 3 kilometer, and on the major highways we are trying to build one charging station at the distance of 25 kilometer each. So this is what we have to understand from this particular slide. The next one, it is with respect to the Smart Meter National Program. Smart Meter National Program, again, we are metering the energy. So as we have seen, the metering of the electricity in most of the major cities, or even it has come to the rural area these days, even for the household purpose or the industrial purpose or even for the agriculture purpose, we have the metering system. Even part of some of the electricity missions, we have tried to meter put the meter in all the utilities. Maybe it is household, maybe it is agriculture or industry. So now we are talking of the smart meter. It is not just the meter which shows you the reading of the energy consumption. This will be having many features as far as the communication between the user and the service provider is concerned. then it is being implemented to deploy smart meters across the country, and this is being implemented by EESL. In the previous videos also we have covered the functions of EESL, that is Energy Efficiency Services Limited, which goes for the energy efficient devices and also the affordable devices it produces, and it works under the Ministry of Power. And smart meters, these are the advanced meter devices which will be having the capacity to collect information about the energy consumption, or it can be utilized even for the other metered connections like water and gas. Even in the major cities, we have the metered water connection and the metered gas connection. For example, in Delhi, we have Indraprastha Gas Limited, and which gives the metered gas. And as far as the water is concerned, almost all the water supply boards in the major cities have the metered water connection right now. Similarly, we are using these smart meters in all these all these service provisions. And what all are the benefits that we have with respect to these smart meters? The operational benefits what we have is it will improve the accuracy of the meter reads. We cannot tamper. So basically there are many cases where the meters are being tampered, or even the energy theft will happen, especially during the functions. There will not be a proper permission from the authority, and people will directly steal the power from the transformer or from the main connection. So that can be avoided when we use the smart meters. And the financial benefits, so as far as the equipment and its maintenance is concerned, it is very simple, because the smart meters, if we produce them in bulk, then definitely they are going to help us in the cost efficiency too. And also with respect to the faster restoration of the electric services, even the service provider will come to know that the particular meter is not operating. That means there is some error, so that can be handled from the back end, and the service can be provided very easily. Then the customer benefits, so even with respect to the meter failures, or with respect to the other things associated with the electric supply or the distribution, so that can be fixed and the customers will get the service within no time. Then with respect to security benefits, so it will monitor the system. The smart meters will help in the monitoring the system resources, and also which will mitigate the potential threats of the grid. Sometimes the grids will fail. So even these smart meters will be able to handle such bigger threats. So these are the main things what we have to cover under the Smart Meter National Program. Implementing agency is EESL, and across the country we are trying to do it, and different benefits it has with respect to the operational benefits, financial, customer, and the security benefits. The next program, it is with respect to the star rating program. Even with respect to this program, we have seen the questions in the prelims examination. Star rating program, this has been implemented by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which will allocate the stars right from 1 star to 5 star for the electric appliances which are used, especially in the household. So depending upon the star rating, even the customers will get the first hand information about their energy consumption, and their wattage will be put just below the star rating, and even it will help the customers to know about the energy consumption of those devices, and they will go for the energy efficient devices. Then basically, if we implement this program properly up to 2030, we are going to save the energy to the tunes of 3 billion units. So 3 billion units is a huge number, and these programs like star rating program will definitely give a way for our energy conservation, or the direct or the indirect benefits what we have, or the commitments what we have towards the Paris Agreement, that will be fulfilled if we implement the star rating program properly. And if you take the greenhouse gas emission equivalent for this energy conservation, it is to the tunes of 2.4 million ton carbon dioxide will be reduced. It is carbon dioxide. not carbon monoxide. Then this will create awareness among the domestic consumers to get the first-hand information about these devices, and they will have the first-hand information, and they will go for the particular devices according to their needs. Then we have two categories of star rating here. One is mandated for most of the home appliances. We have to go ahead with the star rating program, and that is mandated. All the producers have to seek the star rating for them, and it has become the mandatory thing right now. And when it comes to the voluntary, it is up to the producers of these devices who will go for the voluntary. So to give a better information about their devices to the customers, they will go for the voluntary. There is a list under the BEE that few things are covered under mandated and few things covered under voluntary. I would request the aspirants to go through the appliances which are there in the mandated list. Then this is done by the appliances avail the star rating from one agency, that is NABL, or National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories. So the standards will be set by this NABL, then the star rating program will be done, or the printing of star on the devices will be done, and this is finally scrutinized by the BEE. Then since 2018, we have a certain change in terms of the methodology that we have adopted in this star rating program. Earlier, we used to see 3, 4, 5 rating. Especially this particular methodology is used in marking the air conditioners. So here it is not purely about the energy what that device saves. It is also about the average or the weighted average with respect to the outside weather conditions. So throughout the year there will be variation of the temperature. So according to that, the energy consumption also will vary. So this ISEER, that is the Indian Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio, which is going to factor in even the outside weather conditions. So it will operate somewhere in the ranges of 24 to 43 degrees centigrade toward the year in India. So one factor will be the outside weather condition, and we are going to get our star rating adjusted to that. So there will be a ISEER star rating and there will be the normal BE star rating. But usually right now in the AC sector, we have almost all the ACs in the 4-star or the 5-star category. That has become mandatory right now, and the methodology that we use in this one is ISEER, that is Indian Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio, which will accommodate even the outside weather temperature while we are calculating this star system. Next one is with respect to India's initiative in the pursuit of curbing the climate change. So that is the India's cooling action plan. So this is not the program which has been done in the collaboration of any international agency. This is purely India's cooling action plan. So under this, we are going for the sustainable cooling and thermal comfort for all. This is the phrase, thermal comfort for all. When it comes to thermal comfort for all, first we are going ahead with the building structures, or with respect to the energy conservation building code, so ECBC. So that we are trying to accommodate, while the demand for this cooling has to be reduced. So first thing is that then we are going ahead with the equipments which will be consuming lesser energy as far as the cooling is concerned. The air conditioners with the energy lesser energy consumption. Then we go ahead with the refrigerants with respect to their toxicity, or with respect to their harmfulness. We are going to select the refrigerants. So under this cooling action plan, we have 3 to 4 priorities. So it addresses first the cooling requirement across the sectors. Maybe it is with respect to commercial building, or the household, or the residential building. So it is going to cover most of the sectors, and it will reduce both direct and indirect emissions. Yes, when we choose the refrigerant correctly and when we use lesser energy, definitely there will be lesser emission of greenhouse gases. Then it provides an integrated vision towards the cooling across the sectors. As I told, first of all, the cooling demand will be reduced by having a better planned or the better buildings. Then the refrigerant transition. So we are going to select the particular refrigerant depending upon the potential of their greenhouse potential. Or the global warming potential. Then the cooling energy requirements. So that is whether the cooling is required and how much energy we are going to consume for this cooling. So that will be considered, and even the energy efficient devices will be built. So these are the three important things. One is the cooling demand, second is the refrigerant transition, and third one is the cooling energy requirements. And finally, it is going to help in terms of the energy efficiency, and we are going to use better technologies. That is what we are doing in terms of the energy efficiency. These technologies will enhance the energy efficiency. So these are the highlights of the India's cooling action plan. Then finally, we have one more important group or the agency, that's name is Climate Action Network. Climate Action Network, along with other NGOs, it is working in the field of mitigation of climate change. So even as part of the framing of some of the indexes which will indicate the climate change. So this particular network, CAN, is part of many initiatives. It's a network of NGOs working on the climate change around the world. And these are autonomous and independent. The NGOs, what we are talking about, they are autonomous and independent, and they have a regional hub or the regional network hubs they have, which will coordinate with each other to have the synergical efforts around the world. Then it contributes even to the climate change performance index. Under this, we have many agencies which collaborate their studies to come up with the index which will mark the climate change performance of the countries. Then it will have the works or their areas of functioning. It is with respect to promote the government and individual action plan. Maybe it is with respect to the broad action plan of the government or with respect to the private agencies. So finally, it will help to limit the anthropogenic climate change around us, and it will help the ecology to gain its sustainability. Then finally, it will help the atmosphere to rejuvenate or to protect itself by doing many programs or coming up with the action plans as far as the climate change is concerned. So Climate Action Network, it is a small group of NGOs, so which has a lot of impact as far as the mitigation of the climate change is concerned. So these all are the topics which we had to accommodate in this video, and in the next videos we'll be seeing some of the issues that are associated with the pollution, and then we'll be moving on to the biodiversity aspect. So till then, read well, revise well, and practice the papers well. Thank you very much.